Welcome to the inaugural session of the Givology Impact Series podcast, in which we share the stories, advice, and inspirations of social entrepreneurs and changemakers around the world in education. I am Joyce Meng, your host. Today we are joined by Neil Doshi and Sagar Patel, the founders of the Givology Chicago chapter. Neil and Sagar have mobilized their local community to put together fundraising and awareness-building events to support grassroots education projects in India. The chapter is 24 members, started February 2015, and has raised $19,000 since then, making them one of Givology's most successful chapters. So, tell me a little bit about yourselves. How did you both end up in Chicago?
Sure. This is Neil. I was born and raised in the suburbs of Chicago. I went to Indiana University. Sagar and I actually both went to Indiana University, and we're both pretty involved with the South Asian philanthropic community. So after college, I actually moved to Fort Lauderdale for a year to work for a startup airline. And then after a year, I moved up to Chicago to work for United Airlines, which is where I am right now. Sagar moved recently, and we both decided that we want to get involved again because we were heavily involved in undergrad. So that's why we kind of thought of the idea of putting together Givology Chicago.
Yeah, and same story as Neil. I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. Went to Indiana with Neil, met him there, and then I was out in New York for 2 years doing investment banking. Then came back here for a year to do private equity, and just pretty recently left for a startup. And kind of same thing that Neil relayed. We really saw a need for some organization or some philanthropic organization, and so we kind of got in touch with Givology and really liked what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really fantastic. What was your inspiration behind starting Givology chapter? How did you get started?
So our inspiration really was, I recently took a trip to India, and I saw, the education crisis firsthand after I visited a rural school in Gujarat, India. So once I got back to the U.S., Sagar and I both talked about what kind of impact we want to make, and I really voiced my opinion on focusing on education in India because I saw it firsthand. So that's how we kind of fell upon that. We found Givology, and we saw that Givology was a perfect avenue to kind of get our message across.
And we've also, just to add to kind of with what Neil said, is we've heard stories from our parents all both being born there and then coming over to the States, and now Neil and I have both had the privilege to grow up in the United States and be born here and just brought up through a very structured education system that some of the stories our parents tell us, it's just very eye-opening to see kind of the standards they went through, what it's like now, and so we really wanted to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, Sagar and I have a very strong South Asian network. So we thought that there was a big disconnect with the second generation South Asians and with, our home country's crisis. So we want to bridge that disconnection by finding something where second generations around the Chicagoland area can do something to make an impact for, our home country.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned tapping into your network. How did you get started, and how did you recruit and come up with these event ideas?
Yeah, so we have a pretty big board, and it's definitely done well the first year. We've raised $19,000, but I think the reason we've done that is just through Neil and I's personal network. So we were pretty involved in college in a lot of different South Asian organizations and part of different cultural dance teams. And so, we met people at different competitions, at events on campus at Indiana, and kind of stayed in touch with those people. And then also when Neil was in Florida, I met a lot of people. I met a good amount of people in New York. And so we really tapped into all those networks and tried to push promotion to be involved with Givology. There were a lot of people looking to do something outside of just working in their professional life, and so that's kind of the selling point of what we went towards when we talked to people in our network.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, we've seen some exciting photos from your events. What are some of your favorite stories from this year with the Givology Chicago chapter?
I'd say the biggest thing that, made us happy and shows the impact that we're making that, we were both surprised about is just the turnout to our events. our first event, which was just to kind of get to know Givology Happy Hour, was very all word of mouth promotions, not too much promotional flyers and things around the city, and so it was all word of mouth. We had over 180 people show up to a bar in Chicago, and so just events like those where we have huge turnouts and it's kind of people doing stuff outside of just going out on the weekends and doing activities that are helping a cause but at the same time having fun. We had a dodgeball tournament here in the city where we had 10 teams come from across the city to compete for cash prize, but then also some of the money went to our cause. And so we've had a lot of cool events like that throughout the year, and we're going to continue to kind of do that because it's been positive towards our audience.
And also the feedback that we've gotten, especially after that first happy hour event that we had a lot of feedback saying that they're shocked at the turnout. They're so happy they came. It was a networking opportunity as well. So just, the positive feedback we've gotten from people outside of our board has really been, something that has driven us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's really inspirational. Creating a movement and a goodwill in that community that extends so broadly. So I guess what advice do you have for someone running a chapter? What are some of the lessons that you've learned that you think would be helpful for others trying to put on events and raise awareness and fundraising?
I would say Neil and I, the one thing that we've learned the most is just the whole leadership aspect to running the chapter. We've had, so I guess one of the things that we've really faced difficulty through is motivating people to, be a part of a cause. And, I guess people don't really see the why of what we're doing. It's really tough because our partner organization, Aid India, is not here in the States. And so it'd be really easy if you could support an inner city school or some inner city organization in Chicago because you could get people to come to an event or something that supports inner city schools, and so they could really see the impact you're making. So I think the really tough thing that we found is to motivate people to show them the impact we're making. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of been one of the biggest things, and I think that's something we've learned and something that I think we want to implement in organizations going forward, in Givology going forward.
And kind of just going off that, I think the biggest thing is trying to get people who are initially showed interest, how to get them truly engaged and, committed to the organization. And that is by, explaining the purpose and impact of what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And just reiterating that and ingraining that in our board, just ingraining, the purpose of what we're trying to do. Why are we raising funds to support schools in India? Constantly reiterating the purpose of the organization, the purpose of the team. That's what really gets the motivation out of your team. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect that advice I would give is to really encourage your board encourage individuals on your team to take risks and to take on leadership roles. And that's difficult at times. People are always hesitant to take on new challenges, especially if they haven't been involved in something like this in the past. So it's coaching them and, making them comfortable and gaining their trust and then having them gain your trust so that you can be a successful organization. I think that'd be some advice that we would give.
Yeah, you both mentioned some really great points, and in Givology and among our partner network, one thing we think about is that we're so comfortable in our daily lives, but oftentimes we often forget about the struggles that millions of kids have around the world, and where education is not free and where the public system is in shambles and there's very limited resources and a lot of pressure to work instead of go to school. And so especially since for the typical young professional, very successful like you guys have been, how do you actually increase that relevancy so that people actually, you get them to care about this cause and to think about how small actions can really contribute to making a difference? How do you actually instill that in your chapter network?
Right. So that was the biggest challenge we faced initially was, getting people motivated and explaining the purpose and ingraining that. And how we did that was by having more conversations with the schools, trying to get videos, pictures, Skype calls, conference calls, just to make that connection between our chapter here and then the schools we're supporting in India. So Aid India has been, great help in facilitating that, helping us with setting up calls, sending us videos. Also, we did a book drive, or a school supply drive, where we found individuals in our area that were willing to donate supplies that we shipped off. So just trying to make that connection, trying to make it more tangible, trying to make the impact more tangible. And I think that has helped significantly through our process.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Are you guys thinking about taking a trip to India or piggybacking on a family visit to visit them?
Yeah. So actually, Sagar and I just discussed this pretty recently. We're hoping to maybe make a trip next year, probably like in the March, April, May, June, like a mission trip.
I think it'd be really cool for the board here to just see like what the schools are and kind of like the actual conditions that the students are in right now, and it's just like it'll really motivate the board to get to the next level, which is like either fundraising $40,000 or fundraising $30,000, and just I think if you're there and you kind of see the impact you're making, the difference you're making, and what your money is going towards, it's something that's huge, and so we really want to make a trip. And then on the other side, though, it's kind of instead of spending money to go to India, you could also kind of play devil's advocate and say, why not take that money and give it to the students to better their conditions? So we're kind of split, but it'd be something we'd love to do if family and things are going in the area.
Yeah. I completely agree. That's something that we always think about at Givology. We always tell our fellows, you better raise more impact than the cost of your plane ticket. Because exactly, that money could be implemented for schools and students, but at the same time, in going and experiencing, you can carry back so many stories and pictures and materials to motivate everyone around you. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. What are your plans for the future? What will Givology Chicago be up to?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because it's something Neil and I have been kind of working on now. Is the reason the board is so big now is just we're semi in the startup phase. I know Givology's been around for some time, but Givology Chicago hasn't. So the whole first year we wanted to focus on just promotion, getting the name out there, and letting people know that Givology Chicago is in the city and what we're doing. And so now Neil and I have been kind of talking, and now we're trying to pivot the organization to be more sustainable. And so I guess when you ask what's Givology Chicago doing, we want to definitely be there next year, the year after, and for years to come. And so we're looking, and Neil and I have relentlessly been meeting with different organizations, whether it's Asian organizations or organizations that support schools in the city. And so we're now trying to ingrain ourselves in the community here in Chicago to make it sustainable, let people know that we're here to stay, and that we're open to finding partnerships. We want to get another board next year that's not as big, like a smaller, focused group that, is going to continue to drive the mission. We hope to support more causes outside of Aid India, which Aid India has been amazing, but we'd love to kind of, focus on women empowerment groups in India, or just other kind of initiatives and causes. So I think that's where we're going to try to head.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we kind of want not only pivot our organization to making it more sustainable, but kind of changing our vision in terms of how do we want to promote our name here. Instead of having, a number of smaller events, we want to have, one or two big events in the year which harness most of our donations for the year. So we're thinking about having more of a networking, professional-like events and trying to target a little older audience, because we've captured people in the mid-20s, but we want to start capturing individuals in the 30s and 40s. So by having more professional events and more networking opportunities, I think that's how we're going to try pivoting the organization next year.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you so much for joining us, and really appreciate all the work and ideas and inspiration that you guys have done.
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome. Givology is a great platform, and, we're happy that we can kind of extend its reach and, continue to make an impact from here in Chicago.
Great.
And if anyone from Chicago that's listening, if you want to get involved, we have our website, givologychicago.org. You can find all our contact information on there. You can sign up for our listserv, just so you get information on events and kind of what we've been doing. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you are in the area.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you, Joy.
Thanks for joining us today for the Givology Impact Series. Givology is a 100% volunteer-run online giving marketplace for education, which connects donors to grassroots projects and student scholarships around the world. To learn more and support our work, please visit givology.org.